welcome to Cyber Chats with the National Cryptologic Foundation. I'm Jen Langdon. I'm here with my colleague, Mark Lepker, and these other gentlemen are also my colleagues today, so I'll be introducing them in a moment. So today we're talking about the game development team who is creating a game based on our Outsmart Cyber Threats book. You know, it's as best as I can show it to you, but you'll see more of it and elements of it in the game. So I'm going to introduce our guests and get some background for them first. And then after that, we'd love for your questions to kind of help drive our conversation. So we will show you the game and the game development process. The guys are going to show you all of this. So feel free to drop any questions you guys have in the chat or the Q&A. Also, if your class would like to be part of playtesting group, put in your teacher's email in the chat and we will send a link out to them, and hopefully we'll have a survey too that you guys can reply to. So you can submit your feedback that will actually inform the development of the game. So that would be really awesome. So if you want to take the time right now while we're introducing everybody, if that's something you or your class would be interested in doing, please do that, because the guys would love to have actual people play the actual game. So here we have today with us, we have Elias Dubose and Rick Williams and Rob Sampson. If you guys want to go around and just kind of introduce yourselves and your background and your experience, maybe like, you know, if you have gaming experience, et cetera, et cetera.
All right, I'll start off. I'm Rick Williams. I'm a Unity certified game developer. I've been developing games for about 7 years. I have done work on projects for the Canadian Hockey League and Burger King. I have also done a lot of other smaller games, as well as this educational game. So it's a lot of fun to learn the whole process. As far as this, I do a lot of the programming and a lot of the project planning.
Awesome.
Good morning. My name is Elias Dubose. So I came onto the project last year for the first game through Anne Arundel Community College, where I also attend as well. I'm a student in their game development major, and that I'll be graduating actually this coming May. Prior to that, I actually attended Morgan State University, where I earned a degree in English and journalism. And from that, since that point, I've been editor at a magazine, wrote screenplays, taught classes on film criticism, and that writing I'm actually bringing over to the game, as well as some narrative design work as well.
Awesome. Rob?
Hi, I'm Rob. I'm the cybersecurity consultant for this project. And so I've been studying computers, networking, cybersecurity. I'm really starting to focus in on networking now, but, you know, there's a lot of aspects to cybersecurity. So being good at networking is basically like, you know, being good at cybersecurity. So, or an aspect of cybersecurity. So that's what I'm focusing on. And they asked me to help with this project. So here I am.
So let's backtrack for a second. So what is the project exactly that we're working on? What is this game? What is the purpose of this game? Why are we developing the game? So who wants to kind of, Rick, you want to head that one up?
Yeah, I can cover that. So the idea behind the Amanita White Hat series of games is to convey good cybersecurity principles and the fundamentals of data care. It's the kind of thing like, if you get a weird link, don't click it. Don't keep your password on a sticky note up on your monitor. How can you identify if somebody is trying to send you a phishing email? What we're trying to do is gamify the experience of what happens if you make good decisions and what happens when you make bad decisions, as well as how to fix problems that happen. So the goal with the game is, at the end of it, you understand at a more basic level how to not do stupid things online.
So we want to reinforce the things that you guys are going to be learning inside of Smart Cyber Threats and the booklet, especially like confusing the ideas behind data care and everything, so that you can you can actually see the practical elements that you're actually learning within that.
So then following up to that, you know, you guys all have different expertise and background experience. How do you go into this project? Just like, how do we blend all your different backgrounds and all your different skills to really make sure that nobody steps on anybody's toes or anything? Like, how do you guys make it all work?
From our basic backgrounds, I'm the one who has computer science background. I have a lot of strength with architecting the software and how to bring the game together and actually program the mechanics and make it happen. Elias is really good with narrative design, and he's helping us to write the story and turn it into something that makes sense and feels good from a story perspective, while at the same time conveying the principles. And Rob is here to bring his expertise at cybersecurity. Like, he understands what the difference between a virus is and a worm. And whenever we're putting the project together, he's the one who fact checks us and makes sure that we are telling you the right thing.
Exactly. It's important to have accuracy. I think you don't want like a hokey, like, oh, that's not really what it is. So can you tell us more about like the development process? And we do have a couple questions, but I thought we would start more with kind of what it is you guys are developing before we get into some specific questions, if that's okay.
Okay.
Yeah, sure thing. I actually have a little PowerPoint here that we can actually just kind of go through just to show our process here for you. Here.
While you're setting that up, some people have a question. What language is the game written in?
I'm assuming you're talking about this programming language. So we are using Unity, which uses C#.
C#. Awesome. Thank you. So more questions coming in. Awesome. Thank you guys for bringing in all the questions. So Elias, you're getting that. You can share it in the bottom. You know that, right?
Yep. Just getting a free moment with you guys. If you're all set, I can go ahead.
Go ahead. Go for it.
Awesome. Okay. So formally, or I guess like within our group here, we're actually called CyberHawk Games. That came with our first team. Actually, Jen was a part of that as well. We came up with the name partially because we were Anne Arundel Community College students, and the Riverhawk is our mascot. So, hey, we were clever. Yeah, so our game development process. So what we actually do is we use an online freehand board. We actually all collaborate within that and pull together our ideas into the different cohesive elements that we feel are going to be needed for the game. So that's going to include the lesson. That's going to have explicit things from data care. Whatever cybersecurity concept. So not only is it going to incorporate those ideas behind data care, but also just kind of figure out, does it make sense for there to be a worm or some type of malware or anything like that to actually come into place there? Everything that has to come under that umbrella. We move on to the actual gameplay and mechanics and the story elements. All these things we pull together from all of us so that we can see where we can all just kind of pull our different abilities and specializations into it. So that could be just even little things like just having a doodles or just sporadic things in there. So beyond that, then Rick was able to actually come up with the game flow and actually see how we can kind of incorporate the narrative as well as the gameplay into that, so that it can actually go into kind of like a good cohesive flow between everything. And we all collaborated on trying to figure out, okay, so what pieces do we actually need? What deliverables? Who needs to be there throughout the entire thing, so that it can give us a means to kind of move forward and try and figure everything out from there. So at that point, I go ahead and write a script just to actually pull in, okay, so where parts is the story actually going to come into place? How is that going to be stitched together as far as everything is concerned within the game itself? At the same time,
sorry to interrupt. Should we include visuals with this, like a screen share?
And Rob is able to actually go and actually create the environments that we're looking for. So we don't have a 3D artist within our team. So as far as this is concerned, we actually use assets that were pre-made by Cinti Studios. We're able to drop them in, and that allows us to be able to just generate and continue working in a relatively quick process. So from that, after taking the script and that I wrote, Rick was able to actually go in and flesh out the flow, actually further bring it together and see where things may need to be augmented. And we're able to just go ahead and move forward with that. So Rick is able to go ahead and start programming, where I also go into Unity and also start working on my cinematic that I did based off of the script that I made. However, so for this specific one, the things that I've been showing you have been specifically for our poster puzzle that's going to be in the new game. Rob actually found a problem within, this is actually supposed to be Rob here. So in this little game mechanic that we have here for the reset here, actually didn't work as far as the cybersecurity concepts were concerned. We were going to go ahead and like have something really nice generated from that. However, it didn't make sense when it finally came down to it, when we actually went through and reviewed everything. So we decided to go ahead and just take this entire portion out and close the loop. In doing that, it actually saved us 6 hours of work that we didn't have to like kind of waste on that. So that was really wonderful for Rob to be able to just make sure that we're on point, that we're making sense, that anybody that comes behind us can, not turn their heads and just wonder, okay, these guys don't know what they're doing. So from there, again, Rick continued to code, create the poster puzzle, create the different assets that we needed within here. And like I said, I continued on with the cutscenes and whatever scripting needed to be needed from there. So unfortunately, at this time, we're still working out the bugs on it. We don't have anything for this specific puzzle to show beyond what I had from the screenshots earlier, but please keep an ear out. And like I said, we were looking for testers for the upcoming game, where you will see that and more of the mechanics and the gameplay from that one. However, we still have our first game that you are still able to play on the NCF's website, and you guys will seriously have a wonderful time with that as well.
So we have a bunch of questions, also kind of that I could see relate to the first game. It really doesn't matter which one I start with, but Robert Frost Middle is wondering, is there going to be any code that you have to learn or fix? And then question 2, will there be more options, like where students can decide to turn gray hat?
Okay, so part of the way that we're designing this is we're trying to go for a high level overview. So when it comes to actually delving down in and learning code, that is something that probably goes beyond the scope of what this project will actually do, because we do not want to make this experience as difficult as actually learning how to do cybersecurity. What we do is we want to help you understand why the cybersecurity principles are important with a glossing over overview of how to do it. We do simplify a lot of the mechanics and the interfaces. For example, I see a question here about Wireshark. What we did was we created something in the first game that looks like Wireshark, but we simplified the interface so that you get the idea of what it teaches, but it's not nearly as complicated as the actual Wireshark game or Wireshark program. So in that case, I would say no to actual coding, but you do learn where coding is involved. As far as becoming a gray hat, we are going to be including in the sequel perspective shifts where you have Amanita White Hat and then there's Darius Black Hat in his command center. Darius is going to be the guy who is trying to hack you, trying to take your data. And in that position, you are supposed to understand what he's trying to take and why he's trying to take it. So that may be where the gray hat comes into play. We are considering story elements where the bad guys do good things and the good guys sometimes do bad things. There's a gray area in there.
So then, like you were saying, you're referencing the somebody has a question, are there going to be simulations of programs like Wireshark, NCAT, et cetera, to demonstrate deeper concept of cybersecurity, to kind of see how it's like during a security breach or that environment, sort of red team, blue team thing? Is that going to be included in the game?
At the end of the day, it's still going to be a game. So we want to be able to have kind of the environmental reality of what it would actually look like without having to have a certified course ahead of time that you'd have to know to be able to play the game. Should have fun and really get the lessons that come out of it, rather than having to be, an expert.
They say they noticed a few things about the game. So I'm guessing they're referencing the first game that we made, which introduced fundamental things like physical pen testing and breaking into infrastructure. Is there going to be anything about the game that talks about possibly or showing web security and not just networking and physical security as well?
I would say this one actually is the game we're currently working on is, like Rick said, it has two different perspectives. It has from the data thief's perspective, where Darius Blackhat, who's trying to get your information, and it shows how he attempts to get it. There's still a few puzzles that we're still kind of finalizing the details on, but I would say I don't think it's specifically web security. There's just a few things that we're still working out, exactly how he obtains these things. Actually, this was another point. As a consultant, I kind of wait for the game dev and the story writer to kind of finalize on something, and then I kind of go in and kind of fix things, or not fix, but make it more realistic. So I'm still kind of waiting on certain things to be finalized. So I wouldn't say specifically it's web security, but it's more of just data protection all around.
I would say that some of our puzzles probably are going to delve into security that involves the web. For example, there will be a ransomware puzzle where one of the teachers clicks on a phishing link and, or they click on something that takes them to the wrong website. And next thing you know, there is some ransomware on the school's computer system. There will be a QR code puzzle where you scan a QR code, which inherently takes you to a URL, which will then take you to the wrong URL. So this is one of those things everybody's seen. You're at a restaurant and there's a menu. Oh, scan the QR code. Well, what if somebody takes a sticker and puts it over top of it, and then you scan it? Next thing you know, it sends you off to some website you don't want to be on. For the ransomware, there's a firewall puzzle, and there are more puzzles that involve things going over the internet as a network. So I don't know if that's exactly answering your question, but I would imagine that.
I see some of these questions and I'm like, oh, the first game, last year we were talking about making command line, a command line puzzle and all of these things. And I think what a lot of people don't understand is how complicated these can be to A, make, and B, conceptualize. So, and I still wish there could be in there, but I know it doesn't fit in the scope of this current project either. And I feel like this question kind of goes along with, could there possibly be a red team perspective where you would try and conduct a red team penetration test? What do you guys think? Rob, Rick, Elias?
I think it's more entry level, so very, very basic, where take a man in the middle attack. It would just simply be conveying the concept that, between point A and point B, there can be someone listening in the middle. And we can show that in multiple ways. But that would be an example. We would just convey the concept of that. Maybe we would show UI that kind of looks like tools that you would use to resolve some of these problems, or UI that you would use to resolve some of these problems, or related tools. It's more conceptual, entry level, just get the idea of how these attacks work.
Well, I can definitely see that the interest is there. And one thing that we had from the outset put in our planning was that we were looking at different perspective shifts. And a part of this project, one outlook that we also had is wanting to be able to show that Amanita, our main character, is not alone as far as being able to help people in need, especially when circumstances like an intrusion occurs, right? So part of it is going to be a mechanic where she will be able to reach out and talk to other professionals within the cybersecurity realm And it is possible, I can't give any promises, but it's possible for there to be a point where you may see a penetration test. It's something that we have to scope out and be able to see about, and especially if the interest is here, to be able to see more things like that, and we can see what we can be able to do. Again, once we get the testers, if we're able to execute on it, yeah, you'll be the first to know.
So on that note, can you guys maybe even show us, like in Unity, kind of any idea of what you have right now, so we could get like an overview of the new game?
Yeah, so we keep in mind it's under construction, but I can share what we currently have. So what we have here is Amanita. For those of you who haven't met Amanita, this is her. We are currently building the game out in a middle school environment. So what we did was we created a layout, a floor plan of what the school should look like. We have an office here for the principal, a nurse's office, several different classrooms that have been filled and fleshed out with different ideas. Like, I believe this is the math class. So we have different students that have been cast out, and we put placeholders in here because they haven't been fully created yet. We have the newsroom, which is where the first puzzle is going to take place. And you've got Mr. Edmondson, aka Mr. Ed, and you'll be able to talk to him, and he's the teacher who was helping them make a poster. And you don't know why the poster is taking you to the wrong website. And that is the crux of this puzzle. So as far as we've developed so far, you have a lot of mechanics from the old game. And what you can do is you can walk up and you can chat with the principal. This is some placeholder text. We will be able to change it out. And then you can go up, you can look at the posters. You can see various things such as the cybersecurity pamphlet. The idea behind this is you will be guided to say, hey, listen, we are having some problems. Can you go talk to the cybersecurity club advisor? He's the guy who understands all of this best. He will explain to you, hey, I have some issues going on. They were talking about some issues over at the media room. Can you give me some help? And then when you're done, it will switch to a animation where this is a test animation that goes very quickly. And then next thing you know, you are in here. You can talk to Mr. Ed. He tells you what's going on. And then you have a poster. We will be switching out the poster, but you'll be able to take your phone and scan around. And then if you scan over this, you will get some little animation that says, hey, this is not going to the right spot. Then you can talk to Mr. Ed and he'll say, oh, this isn't right. Then you go back and you discover that it is a sticker that is on here that you have to peel off. So this is as far as we've made it into this first puzzle. We are in the process of creating a solid structure, a solid system, so that we will be able to quickly implement puzzles in the future. But this is where we are now. Some of the additional aspects to this, you will have basic cybersecurity problems to solve, but we do want to add in a few different things just to make it more fun, such as a teacher's lounge. If you can demonstrate that you have completely fixed and completely understand everything that this game is supposed to teach, you'll be able to get into the teacher's lounge, which will have a moon bounce and will have a playground and a skate park and all these different things that you can just do for fun. Because let's be real, how many students get to see what's actually in a teacher's lounge? And this is your opportunity.
The first game was playable through the web browser, but how about the new version? Can it be used on an iPhone or an iPad?
So when it comes to implementing a game on something like an iPad or a phone, there's a couple of considerations. The first is going to be hardware. Can those systems actually run it? Not every phone is the same. This is a very low intensity program, so it would be able to run on many phones and tablets, but not all of them. There's also a matter of reworking the interface so that it works on tilting and touchscreen controls, because a tablet and a phone usually will not have WASD or a mouse. So I would say we have not actually looked into doing that, but it is possible, and we would have to do some hardware tests to see where our limitations are based on what the tablets are capable of. What are their specs?
I think it should also be mentioned that initially the scope of like the first project and the first game was it was supposed to be in the kiosk in the National Cryptologic Museum. So that was definitely a huge factor into what was developed. Right, guys?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think we initially, that was even a conversation like last year, like how are we getting this in the kiosk? Will it be on a tablet? We would have had to do that from the beginning. Will there maybe be an application where you could show denial of service protection preparations? I believe that was a consideration, or show real world scenarios about DDoS/DOS attacks and show simple examples of protections in place.
Yeah, part of our brainstorms already have these incorporated within them, and so a couple of the game mechanics that we're going to see from the perspective of the attacker may possibly show this, possibly also show some real world ramifications. Those are things that we're still ironing out, but is on our list of ideas we're looking at executing on.
It looks like students are going to be super pumped for the teachers lounge, guys, just as we thought. Are there any other interesting things you're thinking of including in the game, like beside, kind of like something fun elements like the teachers lounge?
So this is where it actually gets, it's the perspective shifts could be fun, but this is where the playtesters really come in. We are open to a lot of different ideas on little Easter eggs that can be dropped into the game. Like, I am personally not aware of what's popular in middle school. However, our playtesters will be. So if you do volunteer to playtest, one of the things that we like to do is ask you, like, hey, like, what's a popular meme? What's popular in your school right now? What are the cool things that are going on? And we drop in little homages and mini games that are related to that.
Kind of going along with that, this class, they tested the game, but it didn't work on the Chrome web browser, but it worked fine on Microsoft Edge. Do you know what that would be? All the students' Chromebooks only use Chrome.
Part of it is also, among us, we are basically a 3-person team. So we do a lot of extensive testing, but there's always the need for more and more and more. So it takes different people and different hardware, and just to be able to have that repetition and feedback so that we know. This is something that's new to me because I primarily use Chrome, and it works for the most part for me. But different people with different hardware have different experiences. So if we can have more people to be able to just give us that feedback, then there's nothing much more except making the game better to get from that.
And you guys could work on fixing it. So that's definitely like why we wanted to do this chat, is because the guys need helpful feedback like that so that this all works for everybody out there. Would you say this is more appropriate for middle school or high school or both?
We're trying to tailor it so that it works for both, that it's not too complicated that you really need to have upper level classes. Most of this is thing that somebody in middle school should be able to firmly grasp. That when you're using a computer, these are the things that are possible that can happen both with your hardware and with your information.
Yeah, so I think definitely having it accessible from middle school is a priority, but that means, some high schoolers don't know stuff about cyber, right?
I mean, it's amazing what just escapes your basic understanding. Sometimes it's information that you take for granted. Like, oh, look, here comes a random email with bad grammar telling me I'm going to win $1,000. This is stupid, but somebody will just be like, sweet, I'm going to win $1,000 and click it. You have to understand that people are out there trying to do things with your information. And sometimes you just don't know you don't know what you don't know.
When is the game coming out? What's the game called?
Amanita White Hat and the Mayhem at Mallory Middle. It is due to come out. Our first patch of it is going to come around July.
Awesome. Will there be So there will be links that will be sent out sooner than that, right, Rick and Elias and Rob? For
yes. So
playtest.
yeah, so for playtesting, as far as like an official wrapped up release, that would be July, but you will be able to playtest much sooner, as early as the middle of next month.
Sweet. Okay, so hopefully links sent out in the middle of next month, guys. Will there be a perspective from the attacker's perspective of wireless attacks, say like a WPA to PSK or WP or WEP? Okay, so also who's going to attack the school? Is it going to be a really bad tech savvy student, like a script kiddie, or will it be an actual like external person?
There's a couple of students who will do that. My favorite plot lines in this is we will have a student who has a math test and he's not ready for it. So he goes online and he figures out how to do a DDoS attack to stop the systems from being able to run so he can get out of his math test. Elias, do you want to cover another one?
I don't know if I want to cover my story portions because I don't want to have everything spoiled before like everyone gets to play the game. Oh, I would like that. But so yeah, what I can say is that like at least that what the setting here is abundantly obvious it's going to be in the school. So we want to be able to have it relatable to someone whose intent has purposes that surround Mallory Middle here. So they are related somehow.
Do we want to go into any more detail than that?
It's not going to be me.
I'll do it. I'll spoil. So we got Darius Blackhat, and what he does is there's another student who wants to spy on their peers because they just like to gossip. So they're just like, oh, I found this cool information online, so they use it in order to spy on their classmates and do different things. But little does this student know, Darius is also using this information, this program that he provided to the student in order to skim information. So while the student is getting all of her ability to spy on people, Darius is also getting everybody's personal information, and he's going to do nefarious things with that information.
I love the addition of Darius. This is going to be so fun. Rob, do you want to tell us more about like what cyber concepts you kind of have influence to help be included in this next iteration of Amanita's adventures?
Well, so yeah, there's a few technologies that I was thinking might be really smart, really a good idea to include. A lot of them were actually based off the Security Plus's objectives. That's like a certificate you can get for being certified in security. Cybersecurity. So some of them are like mobile device management. And that would be, I know a lot of schools some schools give out like iPads to their students or Chromebooks. Yeah. So this might not apply to all of those devices, but certain ones, there would be a level of, the school would want to have some control over those devices. So they would put a mobile device management in place. And that could maybe share like the device's geolocation data. That it could probably show, what that student is doing with the device. I mean, so that's like one of the aspects. Another that was really heavily stressed on the Security Plus was different types of man-in-the-middle attacks. So I wanted to at least include that in one puzzle. And actually, the last one Rick was talking about is going to incorporate that concept. The fact that someone can spy on someone's emails that they're receiving or just receive the information that someone else should only be receiving is another big topic. There was also something as advanced as cross-site request forgery, where you could actually send a person to a site. There was talks about this. I don't know if this is still in the scope, but cross-site request forgery, where you could send someone to a web page. There'd be a little script running in that, and it would try to make requests on a person's behalf. Maybe it would delete the school account, or maybe it would just post hurtful comments on a social media. But so these are, a lot of this stuff is reflective of the Security Plus exam objectives. And I think, that they're kind of the ones that CompTIA, the people of that are kind of leading the direction of like what these, the entry level cybersecurity, or people that are trying to get into cybersecurity at an entry level, they're kind of leading that direction. So I wanted to like kind of incorporate, be as similar to that as possible. Yeah.
More towards you, Rob. So what about server-side requests for forgery attacks?
Again, that was like more of just a general idea of how they work. So I guess the extent would be like something, you get a link to a website, and you would just, maybe students would report like, oh, my school account is not there anymore. It's been deleted or something. So you would just see the capabilities of some of these attacks, and that might be the extent. So that was just like an example of like the extent of these attacks. We don't want to go too advanced in them. We just want to, I guess, expose people that they exist. So again, it's more than just, preparing someone for an exam. It's also like just revealing that these things even exist in the first place.
So that people might want to look into them more. So will there be password attacks used by students after they've collected information about people to create like custom word lists and attack student passwords on the grading websites, or possibly elevating privileges on the network? So like really, really going for, privilege escalation.
I guess that's for me as well. I believe in the first game there was, okay, maybe there was. Well, I mean, so I don't believe that specifically worked into any puzzle. Like I was saying before, there's still a lot of things that are still up in the air, and that could be a potential facet of a puzzle. Maybe it starts, you have to gain or access to something by guessing a password. So that could just be like, that could just reveal the way that, someone can gain access to something. If you have the ability to just keep guessing passwords over and over again, there's no like timeout and like worked into those password systems. You could just keep guessing literally every password, and it'd only be a matter of time till you could get in. And so, I mean, we could probably easily work that into a puzzle. There's nothing set in stone just yet.
But I think the guys are also at the point that we are trying to trim down the scope of the game, so that way we can finish it by July. Rick?
Yeah, one of the things that you definitely have to be cognizant of when you're planning a game is something called scope creep, because you can easily sit and put somebody, have a group of people in a room, and in a 10-minute conversation, you can add 10 months worth of work. So it's very easy to just say, well, we're going to do this and we're going to add this and this and this. But at the end of the day, every single thing takes a certain amount of time to implement. So we've spent a decent amount of time really curating what it is that we want to add in, and we've formulated it into a plan, a set of game mechanics that we have a rough estimation of the timeline that it's going to take to build everything.
What made you all make this game? How old do people need to be to play it?
I'd say good for all ages, but like really you just have to be old enough to understand that bad things can happen with computers. What got us to start playing it was, I believe it was Mark's idea. Yeah. And he came to the college that myself, Elias, and Rob were all going to, and said, hey, listen, do we have anybody who knows how to make games? We're looking for help. And, we were just like, oh, yeah, let's check it out. So we ended up putting it together, building a plan. But it got started because of this wonderful gentleman here.
What certifications for Rob, do you have in security? I know it might be a personal question, but that is a great question to ask, because if you're into cybersecurity and you want to make a cyber game, you should probably know what you might need to know.
Yeah, I don't mind sharing. I have the CompTIA trifecta, A+, Net+, Security+, and I'm currently studying for the CCNA. The Security Plus does go over like very foundational knowledge, but I believe it would be sufficient enough to at least convey, the foundation of all these attacks. I can at least steer people in the right direction. And for things I'm less familiar with, I have like, that foundational knowledge that I can do a little bit of research and quickly see what's going on. I would say, you can't focus on security and networking and, even program. That they're all almost like different directions. They're different rabbit holes you can go down, you can spend your life on. Right now, I'm deciding, networking is where I really feel comfortable at, but that's not to say I'm not exactly good at security, the general concepts of these,
I think this really highlights the collaborative nature and the specialist nature of cybersecurity, how it takes a team of people who all specialize in one thing or another.
Question about whether or not we're going to make another game next. I think that depends on if we get funding to make another game, which we hope we get. So the more people that play our game and give us feedback on that might mean that we make a third game. And these guys, I know they'll have awesome ideas and maybe include like a next level in a third game. Everybody had wonderful questions today. Thank you all for coming and giving us your feedback. And we can't wait to get your feedback on the second game. So again, super fun talking with all you guys today. Thank you guys for making the time to come be with us. And we hope we got to answer all of your questions. And if not, like I said, you can always ask us questions when we send out the survey for testing and whatnot. Okay, have a wonderful day, everyone. We'll see you on the next chat.
Yep. Thanks for having us.
Bye-bye.
Bye.